She was whipped every day, but the bull couldn't stand to watch anymore and did something that shocked everyone. The Pedra Queimada farm wasn't named by chance. The sun there felt crueler, closer to the cracked earth. No tree dared to grow fully, and even the birds when flying by went silent. It was as if the world itself had forgotten that place, and with it the people who lived there. In the dark wooden manor, the windows were always shut, like eyes refusing to see. Inside, the dust was so thick it seemed part of the furniture. The smell was a mix of mildew, old sweat, and fear. And in the corner of the kitchen, under a tattered rag that barely covered the floor, slept Amara. Not by choice. Sleep was the only moment in the day when she could exist without pain. Before we begin, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep bringing you moving stories. Let's go. At 14, Amara looked older. Her thin face, sunken eyes, and silent footsteps told everything words couldn't. Her brown skin was marked with scars and bruises, remnants of the regime her older brother imposed, as if it were law. His name was Caleb, but many called him the Whip. He had ruled there since their parents died, and ruled with cruelty. The sound of the belt hitting the wooden table was already a warning, and even when he didn't strike, he spoke, and when he spoke, it hurt. "You should have gone with the old hag," he said, spitting on the floor with contempt. Still, alive out of stubbornness. It was still early. The sun had barely risen, but Amara was already on her feet. She removed the cloth from her body slowly to avoid making noise. Caleb hated noise in the morning. She walked down the narrow hallway, grabbed the bucket, and headed toward the farthest pen on the farm. There, where the fence was higher, the wood thicker, where even the cowhands avoided going, lived Baruch. Baruch was the farm's black bull, a beast with dark eyes and tense muscles. Rumor had it he'd killed a man. Since then, he lived in isolation. But Amara had never feared him. Maybe because fear had lived inside her for so long that there was no room left to fear anyone else. Maybe because in some strange way, she recognized in the bull's eyes the same emptiness she felt inside herself. Every morning, it was she who cleaned the stall, changed the water, and left the feed. No one else did it. The hands, said the animal, was cursed, but she saw it differently. Baruch didn't snort, didn't lash out when she approached. He just watched with eyes that seemed almost human, and that gaze said everything. As she poured water on the packed earth floor, Amara murmured barely audible, "You hear me, don't you? Even if you don't understand, you hear me." Baruch stood still, staring. Sometimes he would slowly tilt his head, as if considering what she said. He never moved suddenly, never threatened. It was as if he accepted her presence, as if he knew that girl, thin and mistreated, was the only living soul who still looked at him without fear. Back at the house, Caleb was already waiting, belt in hand. "What took you so long, pest?" he growled. "Trying to act important for a damn animal now?" Before she could answer, the leather was already slicing through the air. The sound of the impact was sharp. Amara closed her eyes, not because of the pain. Pain was routine, but out of shame. Others were there. The cowhands turned their heads. No one said anything. Silence was an accomplice. That afternoon, Amara was sent to the far end of the farm to gather firewood. Her arms ached, her body throbbed, but she walked with her usual silence. She passed by Baruch's fence once more. The bull was there, motionless. His eyes followed her. For the first time she stopped, rested her forehead against the thick wood of the fence and whispered, "Take me with you, will you? Break this fence and run. Take me." The bull didn't respond, but something in him stirred, a neck muscle maybe, or just the wind. Amara walked away, tired, but with part of her chest feeling a little less empty. She didn't know why. That night, lying on the kitchen floor, she heard Caleb mumbling drunk in his room, heard the jingle of the belt hanging on the wall, and heard like a distant echo, the muffled sound of a hoof striking wood. Baruch, outside, was not sleeping. The sun felt heavier that morning. It hadn't fully risen, but the heat already clung to the skin like punishment. Amara woke before the first rooster crowed, not by choice, but because her body no longer knew how to rest. Her bones ached, her stiff muscles complained, but she stood anyway. As always, with the bucket in hand, she walked once again toward Baruch's pen. The dry branches cracked under her feet. It was a path she knew by heart. Between the main house and the corral lay a stretch of dry pasture, dotted with dead stumps and fences that creaked like old teeth. Baruch waited for her. He always seemed to wait. No one approached that pen. The cowhands went around it, some still, whispered that the bull was the devil's creature. But Amara didn't believe in curses. A curse was living the way she did. What dwelled inside that animal wasn't rage. It was something else, something no one else there seemed to see. But she saw it. She entered the pen. Baruch stood, head low, eyes fixed on her. Amara poured water into the trough and sat for a moment in the shadow of the fence. Her eyes were heavy, but she still had the strength to speak to him. He's going to hit me again today. I saw it in his eyes. Baruch snorted. Not a threatening sound, but a deep breath, as if he too was tired. Sometimes I think I'm invisible, but you see me, don't you? The bull approached slowly. He didn't cross the invisible line between them, but came close enough that she could feel his warmth. You want to run, don't you? I do too, but we have nowhere to go. The sound of a snap made her get up quickly. Not the whip, not yet, just the old wooden gate banging in the wind. But the scare remained. It always did. Back at the house, Caleb was already waiting on. The porch, shirt open, belt slung over his shoulder. He drank strong coffee like it was poison. Again with that beast, huh? You're gonna end up as feed with him. Amara didn't respond. She knew any word was an excuse, and silence was her only weapon, however weak. She entered, picked up the floor rag, and started scrubbing the kitchen boards. The heat made the dust cling to her arms like mud. At lunch, Caleb threw the plate to the floor. Not hot enough. Eat that with the dog. Better for him than for us. Amara knelt to pick up the food, didn't protest. The dog watched her from the corner of his eye, as if ashamed to share that meal. In the afternoon, Caleb sent her to the back of the property, near the slaughterhouse, to fetch tools. It was a forgotten stretch, full of branches, the smell of dried blood and rust in the air. She obeyed. On the way back, she passed by Baruch once more, and something made her stop. The bull was restless. He struck his hooves hard against the ground, raising dust. Amara stepped back, but not out of fear, out of surprise. It was the first time he did that. His eyes were darker, deeper, as if he knew. You felt it too, didn't you? That something's wrong today. The bull snorted loudly, a deep sound that echoed across the pasture like distant thunder. Amara hurried back to the house. That night, Caleb was more aggressive, drank too much, and his words came full of venom. You think that beast's gonna save you? He won't. He's just waiting for the chance to crush you. She didn't respond. But outside, Baruch did not lie down. In the early hours, while the house slept, he remained there, steady, staring at the kitchen window like a silent watchman, as if he were waiting. The night felt longer. The wind blowing through the cracks in the house brought a strange kind of cold, not one that chilled the skin, but one that froze the chest. Amara had barely slept. Her body kept trembling under the rags, and her eyes burned from straining to keep silent. Outside, the creaking of Baruch's fence mingled with the whispers of the wind. It was as if something out there wanted to come in, or get out. When the first ray of sun pierced through the thick clouds, Amara was already on her feet. Barefoot, she crossed the yard with steady steps, bucket in hand. She was in a hurry, but didn't know why. It was just a feeling, like a memory, that hadn't happened yet. Baruch stood in the same place, but his body looked tenser, his eyes even deeper. Amara stopped at the edge of the fence and watched him. He watched her too. "You didn't sleep, did you?" Silence. She entered the pen, cleaned the trough, changed the water, swept the dirt floor with her bare hands. Everything the same, but the air wasn't the same. There was a kind of urgency she couldn't name. Before leaving, she stopped and said softly, "If I don't come back tomorrow, thank you for looking at me differently." Baruch took a step forward. Amara gave a faint smile and left. In the kitchen, Caleb was already waiting. He held the belt buckle in his hands, spinning it slowly. "Dreamed of the bull today? Or were you talking to him again, you crazy girl?" Amara lowered her head. "You're gonna learn today not to look at animals with that much affection. That's nonsense, weak people stuff." Without warning, the buckle came straight at her. Back. She didn't scream, just closed her eyes and felt the skin split. "You'll clean the shed today on your knees. If there's time left, you'll sweep the corral with your tongue." The farmhands pretended not to see, always had. No one there wanted trouble with Caleb. He was the voice and the punishment of the farm, and anyone who talked too much became the next target. By late afternoon, Amara was sent to the slaughterhouse again, this time to fetch bones. The smell was nearly unbearable, but she didn't complain. She never did. On the way back, her foot caught on a root. She fell face first into the dirt, the bones scattering. As she tried to get up, she heard the familiar voice. "Well, look at that. Even the devil trips." It was Caleb leaning against a tree, smiling. He approached slowly, whip slung over his shoulder. "Get up, you trash!" She tried, but her legs trembled. "You're not a person. You're leftovers, and leftovers get thrown out." He raised the whip. At that moment, Baruch snorted, loud, strong, a sound that sliced through the air like thunder. Caleb stopped. Amara turned her head and saw the bull standing at the fence, nostrils flared, his whole body tense like a rope about to snap. "This beast's gone mad." Caleb spat on the ground and laughed. "Maybe you really are doing witchcraft with him, huh, little witch?" But the laugh wasn't as firm as before. Something in Baruch's eyes unsettled him. Amara dragged the bones back to the house, saying nothing. That night, lying on the floor, eyes fixed on the dark ceiling, she whispered to the wind, "He saw you, and he knows." Outside, Baruch didn't sleep, but that night, for the first time, he rested his forehead against the fence, and the wood made a different sound, as if something was giving in. The weather was strange that morning. The heavy sky threatened rain, but the heat still clung to the air. The entire farm seemed caught in a thick silence, unlike any other day. The animals were restless. The dogs didn't bark. The horses refused to leave the stables. Even the crickets, usually noisy at night, had gone quiet. Amara knew something was about to happen. The path to Baruch's pen was slower. Her body ached more than usual. Her legs barely responded, but she went anyway, just like every day. The bucket hung from her hand, nearly empty, like the last bit of energy left in her body. When she arrived, Baruch was already standing, not in his usual corner, but close to the fence, as if he had waited all night for her. His eyes were different, brighter, more alive. She leaned her forehead against the wood and murmured, "It's close, isn't it?" The bull didn't reply, but his silence said everything. Amara cleaned the trough, poured the water, and as she turned to leave, she stopped, watched the bull for a moment. Then, for the first time, she said, "If I disappear, just stand up, just stand. That's all I need." Baruch snorted, firm, and didn't take his eyes off her until she vanished behind the corral. At the house, Caleb seemed more nervous than usual. He paced back and forth, stomping his boot on the ground, muttering nonsense. He drank 3 mugs of coffee before noon, threw a plate at the wall because the beans were cold, cursed the old farmhand cleaning the shed, spat in his sister's food before sending her to wash the pigs. When she returned, clothes soaked in mud, he laughed. "Well, look at that. You actually look better like this, all covered in filth. At least it hides that ugly face." The workers, as always, pretended not to hear. One or two glanced sideways, but no one said a word. No one ever did. That afternoon, Caleb went to Baruch's pen. He carried a stick in one hand and a glass of cachaça in the other. "You've been real noisy, huh, beast? Trying to show off?" The bull snorted. His nostrils flared, his muscles tightened. Caleb laughed, poured the cachaça on the ground, and leaned on the fence. "What you gonna do, huh? You're just a caged animal, just like your little friend." Baruch stared, motionless, but there was something in his eyes, something that wasn't animal. That night the storm finally came. Lightning split the sky in silence. The rain fell hard. The house creaked with the wind. And in the kitchen, Amara stayed awake. Her body hurt, but her eyes wouldn't close. It was as if her heart was beating for a different moment. Outside, Baruch stood in the rain, soaked. Water ran down his shoulders like it was washing away something long buried. And then the sound came, a snap, sharp. The wood of the fence, breaking. Amara jumped to her feet, ran to the window, and there he was, Baruch, out of the pen, free, staring at the house. Thunder roared across the sky, but inside her, the sound that echoed loudest was her own heart. The watchman had awakened, and now nothing would be the same. The corral gate, now fallen, lay at Baruch's feet like a trophy won by time. The chains were broken, the posts ripped from the hard earth as if they were twigs. The bull, covered in mud and rain, stood still, staring at the house with eyes lit by resolve. Inside, Amara watched from the window. She didn't know if what she felt was fear, hope, or just relief. But one thing was certain. He had come out, and it wasn't by chance. In the next room, Caleb snored loudly, drunk and oblivious to the storm and to what awaited him. The wall clock read 3:12. The kitchen was dark, but each lightning flash lit Amara's tense face. She opened the door slowly, her bare feet on the damp wood. She stepped onto the porch, where the rain still fell hard. She saw Baruch standing in the yard, his breath visible in the chill of the night. She walked toward him, not knowing why. The thunder no longer scared her. Only Baruch mattered. She got close enough to touch him, and he didn't move. She rested her hand on his snout. "You didn't come for me, did you?" The bull lowered his head, his eyes closing for a moment. "You came for him." At that very moment, the manor door burst open. Caleb, in his underwear, hair disheveled, eyes wild with rage, held an old shotgun in his hands. "I knew it. I knew you were casting spells with that beast." Amara didn't answer. She stood there between her brother and the beast. "Get out of the way, pest. That animal dies today." He raised the shotgun. Baruch snorted, took a step forward. "Don't shoot," Amara shouted. "You think you give orders now, you little brat?" Caleb took aim, but his hands were trembling. That's when Baruch moved. There was no warning. The ground shook as the bull charged. A thunderclap split the sky at the same time. Caleb tried to fire, but fear froze his fingers. The impact was brutal. Baruch hit him head-on, and Caleb's body flew through the air, landing several meters away, crashing against the dry trunk in the center of the yard. Silence. The rain stopped as if in reverence. Amara ran to the body. Caleb was alive, injured, broken, unconscious. Baruch remained there, solid, shielding Amara like a living wall. From the corral, the ranch hands began to emerge, some with lanterns, others wide-eyed. One of them muttered, "It was punishment." This was punishment. No one came closer. Amara stared at Baruch without blinking. The bull no longer snorted. He simply watched her calmly. That night had no return. It was the end of the whip and the beginning of freedom. The sun rose slowly that morning, as if afraid to reveal what the night had left behind. The Pedra Queimada farm seemed suspended for a moment. The silence was no longer from fear, but from astonishment. Caleb was still unconscious. lying on an old board in the shed, with a broken arm and shallow breath. Amara, seated beside Baruch, watched as the ranch hands approached carefully. None dared to cross the invisible line between her and the bull. One of them, the oldest, said quietly, "I think we never understood anything." Another, hat in hand, whispered, "That animal." He was just waiting for the right moment. Baruch remained standing, eyes alert, as if still on guard. Amara, on the other hand, felt a calm she had never known, as if a knot inside her chest had finally come undone. Amara's father appeared at the door of the house. He walked with difficulty, eyes red from years of sleepless nights. He saw his son on the ground, his daughter standing, and the bull beside her like a guardian. "You okay?" he asked, his voice faltering. Amara simply nodded. He said nothing more, just turned back and went inside. The ambulance arrived later that morning. Caleb was taken away unconscious. No police showed up, no reporters, no explanations were given. The farmhands said it was an accident, that the bull got spooked by lightning, that no one saw the exact moment. They only heard the crash. No one dared to tell the truth, because the truth was too powerful to explain. Amara spent the day in silence. She washed her hands calmly, sat on the porch, and saw Baruch lie down for the first time in the open field. He lay down slowly, as if he knew his mission was complete. That night, the house was at peace. The old father sat at the table, gestured for his daughter. She came. They ate in silence for the first time in years. You're staying here, right?" he asked. "Now I can," she replied. Outside, Baruch remained in the yard. He looked at the house with serenity. The ranch hands passed by him more slowly now, not in fear, but with respect. Little by little, the whispers spread through the village. They spoke of the black bull who protected a girl, of the beast who waited for the right moment to act. Some said it was legend. Others swore they saw it with their own eyes. But Amara knew the truth, and so did Baruch. Weeks passed like leaves, blown by the wind. Slowly, what was once ruin became routine. Pedra Quemada didn't turn into a paradise, but something essential had changed. Fear was gone. In its place, a strange respect remained, like the silence that follows a prayer. Amara continued her simple life, washing, cleaning, caring. But now the way the farmhands looked at her had changed. No more scorn. Some greeted her with a nod, others with a timid "good morning." She didn't demand respect. It came like an overdue debt. Caleb never returned. He was hospitalized, then disappeared. Some said he went to the city for treatment. Others whispered he ran from shame. It didn't matter. The farm breathed easier without him. Baruch stayed in. The yard, free. No more chains, no more pen. He wandered wherever he wished, but always slept in the same spot, near the kitchen, close to Amara's window. Sometimes during the night, he would rest his snout there, as if to check if she was still okay. And she, from the other side, would smile in silence. The story spread through town, through the countryside, through the internet. "The bull who saved the girl," read the headlines. But it wasn't a rescue. It was a response, a silent cry. That said, enough. A local school invited Amara to tell her story. She hesitated. She had never spoken in public, but she accepted. Brought a picture of Baruch and said just a few words. It wasn't just an attack. It was a cry no one had the courage to make. The children stayed quiet. Some cried. A teacher wrote on the board, "Amara, the girl who taught the bull to speak." But those who knew the truth understood. Baruch had always spoken. No one wanted to listen. One day, Amara's old father sat beside her on the porch and said, "I should have protected you, but I was afraid too, afraid of everything." Amara looked at him, said nothing, but she held his hand. From the yard, Baruch let out a soft snort, as if approving the reconciliation. Time passed. Baruch grew old. He no longer ran like before, but still carried his majesty. Children came to see him. Adults respected him. He was a living legend. But to Amara, he was just Baruch, the friend, the protector, the mirror. The morning he passed was just like he lived, in silence, lying beneath the only large tree on the farm, eyes closed, chest at peace. Amara found him there and knelt by his side. She cried as she hadn't since childhood, gently touched his mane and said, "Thank you for everything, for seeing me." The farm mourned, not in black, but in silence. Amara had a small wooden plaque carved. "Here rests Baruch, he who listened, he who spoke." She placed it at the base of the tree. Today, when visitors come to the farm, they see a girl who became a woman, strong, serene, with deep eyes. And beside the tree, a small fence surrounds the grave of the one who never needed words to say everything. And if anyone asks what happened there, someone always answers, "It was a miracle, but a miracle made of pain, courage, and love." If this story touched your heart, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. And if you felt something real while following this journey, write in the comments. Amen. I love animal stories. Let's see how many souls still recognize the power of bonds where words cannot reach.